Everybody, welcome back with the Purplatypus is the name, and today we are going to go over general strategies for Tower. So when I'm talking about Tower, we're coming here to Voyage, Crossing Worlds. We are talking about the Tower of Conquest. Now, these aren't going to be, this isn't like a breakdown for a specific stage, because I feel like that's maybe slightly less useful. I want to try to make a video that has some more longevity to it with general strategies that should be able to help you get through these stages. And then I mean, there's other content creators doing ones for specific stages, but if you don't want to like spoil how a specific stage is done, I still think it is worth getting some help there. So we're going to go over basically what types of characters you should be using, what type of tactics you should be using, and what actual within the level strategy you should be using itself. And kind of what you should be looking for. So first, let's go over characters. Now, I just did a video of what I think is probably the 10-ish best characters in the game to use in Tower, but we're going to go over a specific couple things that you should be looking for, basically. So, one is mobility is important, but mobility is never important by itself. Mobility is good when compared with a hit and run style with a percent-based damage. So a perfect example here is when we sort by rarity, because I can never find what I'm looking for otherwise. Voldaren Scout. This is a very good unit for Tower. They have insane movement with jump and climb, and they have a passive additional movement. So they have like 6 movement. They can go anywhere they want. But that is because they also have the Luxite Shrapnel. So you really want to look for percent-based attacks equal to 10% of the target's HP. So there's abilities that say something like this. It also does stacks of infection. Infection is good as that's also percent-based. If you come down here to Outlaw Crossbowman, Armor Eroder, 30% of the target's HP. Again, very powerful. If you come up here to enemies, allies that can inflict Scorch. I don't think it actually says so specifically in the kit. It does right here. Character loses 10% HP after each turn. The effect cannot be stacked, but if it's applied again, they immediately take damage, the 10% damage one. So Scorch is another percent-based thing that you really want to look for. Luxite Grenade, the Armor Eroder, Nightingale has the ability to do Scorch because this creates fire tiles while also having the Weapon Eroder. Very good things. Other than that, you might want to look for characters that can control the enemy. So there's a couple major ways of doing this. One, creating fire tiles is a pretty good way, probably the best, because it does damage and it causes each tile, I don't think it says it here, but each tile costs an extra half movement to use. So instead of it taking 1 tile, it takes 1.5. So 2 tiles actually takes 3. And if someone has like 4 movement, right, and you have it set up right in front of them, they can actually only move 2 tiles because it'd be 3 and this one would be 4.5, and they don't have 4.5, they only have 4. So someone with 4 movement can get stuck after 2 tiles, the same as someone with only 3 movement. So fire tiles can be very good, and they're dealing damage as they traverse these as well. Another way is if we go back to Nightingale again, that's a theme you're going to see here. Sleep, right? Being able to sleep someone is basically a hard CC. So look for ways to be able to control the enemy. Another way of doing that is actually here on Outlaw Archer. You have a bear trap. If you put the trap, someone will walk on top of it and it'll interrupt their turn. And it also does percent-based damage as well. 10% with no infection is not insane, but it is good and it interrupts their turn. So look for characters that have these style of traits. Another trait that's super important here is going to be two more things we're going to talk about is survivability. So you can't take a hit in this mode for the most part. If you're on high level Tower, they're level 70, and right now, even though I'm ahead of most players, I'm level 45. They will one-shot pretty much everything if they're using any real attacks. I'm just getting to the point where I might not get one shot, but if anywhere you're behind me, you're probably just going to get one shot in most of the Tower. So you want to look for characters that can survive. Now, this is pretty limited. There are some levels that will make it so if you guard, like if you block an attack, you'll take 90% reduced damage. That'll make almost anyone that can block survive. But if it doesn't have that type of mutation, someone like Recruited Assassin is going to be really good. Fancy Footwork, he gains dodge, 2 stacks of dodge for 2 turns. So this is going to allow him to absorb 2 single target attacks very easily. Now, some enemies hit 3 times and this will do nothing. Some enemies will only hit do 1 massive AoE attack and this does nothing. But there is a lot of enemies where they go up and try to hit you with like a really powerful attack or a range attack, and he just completely dodges it and negates their attack. So he can absorb a bunch of damage without dying, and he could do that many, many times throughout the fight. Another thing you could look for is KA guard or suppression. They have something like resolve, right? So no matter what, when they get hit, they are going to survive with 5% HP. They actually get defeated, and then they basically get back up with 5% HP. So that will allow you to survive a hit. That could be important because there are times where you just can't keep someone safe by moving everyone out of the way. And so you want someone that could survive a hit every now and then, because you can afford to lose one character, but you can only afford to lose one. The second character causes you to lose. So if you have a character that could take a hit for someone and then not die, it means you get basically another redo. So it's something that's very powerful. Finally, a character that we haven't talked about but fulfills a bunch of these roles here, such as control. You know, I said it's like, you know, the fire tiles is a way of control, but also this does ice tiles, which is very, very good. But you want, in a lot of maps, you're going to want things that can knock targets back. Frequently, the best way to kill something is knocking it off of a ledge. There are some maps where that's literally impossible, where there are just nothing in the map. There are no areas in the map to knock them over for instant kills. You can knock things off of ledges usually to get some bonus damage, but it's not usually insanely good, and it's not an instant kill, and you can't knock them off the edge of the map, things like that. But in a lot of maps, this is going to be fucking huge. Being able to knock targets back by 2 tiles is really good. If you have more than 2 tiles because of a weapon or something else, or Miguel, because Miguel could do 3 tiles, that's also really good. Another good thing about ice is ice increases your knockback distance. So I'm going to show you 2 maps at the end of this that will give you, basically, one of them is going to give you one complete strategy, and another one's going to be a very different strategy for a different map. One more aggressive, one more defensive, but we'll go over that. So look for characters that can knock back. PayPal Ice Priest, a free one that we all have, is Rawia. Her normal basic attack knocks back by 2 tiles. One of the best tower characters in the game for the maps that she can be used in. In maps where you can't kill people by knocking them off, she's frequently terrible. But she goes from either being like one of the best in the game to being not very good, depending on the map. So those are the type of characters you want to look for the most part, right? Again, just to kind of re-emphasize, you want characters with high % damage, things like Scorch, crowd control, characters that could survive a hit with dodge or, you know, resolve, having knockback abilities, and then having a lot of movement can also be really valuable. Another thing Outlaw Archer has really quick while we're here, he has the ability to, besides being able to completely stop someone, he also has the ability to target someone to move down 2 at a range of 4. This can make it so really hard to kill things can be pretty easy to kite. So you could stay out of their range while dealing damage to them. Pretty good. So those are the kind of characters you're looking for. Besides that, let's take a look at the actual talents you're going to want to be using here. So if you come to talents, you go into tactic preparation, you can basically look at your powers here. So the best ones, it will be different depending on the map. But for the most part, if you're looking at the level 3 ones here, I think Ragnarok level 3 is good. If you don't have level 3 Ragnarok, Divine Archer could do something for you. He's a little bit cheaper. This is basically like survive 1 hit. You're not using this to deal damage. You're mostly using this to just get hit and die. Ragnarok, if you're looking for something really expensive and a drawn out fight, is good because it does that % HP, and the 1500 is pretty good as well. Even on against some enemies where this is reduced, like they have a % negation to this, it only does 15% because it's half. That's still really good, and it's a massive area. So really good ability, but you're not going to use it that much. The middle one here is probably the most important, and I would say I use March Command maybe 90% of the time. 90% of the time I'm using March Command because it's so important to get that 2 movement after you attack, because you can go up and you could use your ability and then you can get out of their range. It is so important to stay out of the range of these characters, where March Command becomes one of the best nearly always. The only time like 10% of the time I'm not using March Command, I don't even want to talk about Requiem, but it does put people to sleep. It's probably good. But I don't know. Sometimes I use Summon Explosive Barrel, where if it's a map that's particularly hard to deal a lot of damage to enemies, and if there's already barrels around, you could explode a barrel and then put a mini barrel that'll explode next to that barrel. So you could frequently one-shot wipe out characters. Sometimes you could block paths because enemies don't want to attack this and you can't do it. So there are times where explosive barrel is like insanely good, but I would still probably use that, I would say roughly 10% of the time, and I'm 90% of the time. March Command is just better. And even if you could use barrel in a map, March Command is usually good enough where you don't even need to think about it. On this, this one is the most interesting one because there's 4 good options here. They're all good options, right? Depending on the thing, but Thunderstruck, I would only use to specifically if you need to break a barrel. Like a specific spot that you just can't reach safely. I would say use this about 5% of the time. Guarding Dummy, I would say use this roughly about 5% of the time as well. This has to be in a spot where it's like you just cannot get out of the range and you need something to take a hit without your characters dying. This will do that job, but again, it is very rare that you need it, but it will be used sometimes. I would say about, 10%, maybe 20% of the time, I'm going to use Maneuver Command. This is really good because it allows you to move a character really, really far. I feel like it's kind of fringe, but there are times where it's just like you want to go up and do an attack with this character, and even with the 2 movement, an enemy has such crazy movement, you're still not going to get far enough away. Where I find Maneuver Command to not be insanely good, but sometimes it's exactly what you need and irreplaceable. And I would say, 50, 60, 70, 80, this is like 70% of the time we're using Urgent Order. Grants the target Urgent Order. Basically, this will give them a bunch of speed. It does give them an energy. That doesn't always matter, but it is relevant sometimes. But Urgent Order increases someone's speed by 300. This is basically going to give you like this lets you manipulate turn orders in an important way. It'll let you it's only 80 with a 1-turn cooldown. So you could use this every single turn for quite a while. You'll be able to easily like make 1 unit faster than they naturally are for 2 or 3 rounds in a row, no problem. If you use this turn after turn, or every now and then, like you just want a different unit to move before a different unit and manipulate the order a little bit. This is going to be your best friend for making sure you can actually do that. Urgent Order is one of the best in the whole game. So absolutely, this is one that you want to be considering and you want to be using most of the time. Like as a default setup, I would have Urgent Order combined with March Command and then Ragnarok on the top. That's usually what I run unless I need to change strategies and think outside the box with new abilities. I haven't really ever used Pursuit Order, even though I really like it, but I just don't think it's tower power. I think that's going to be more of a PvP thing because it's absolutely insane. But all right, let's go ahead and look at a couple examples and I'll give you an idea of the strategy itself. I have 2 examples here. So when you're actually in a map, I'm going to use 10-3 and 9-4 that I did. Completely different strategies, but both important. So this is going to be the primary strategy for most maps, especially harder maps. So let's pause it for a second here. So the primary strategy here, you can see characters that I'm using, right? Outlaw Archer, PayPal Ice Priest, Nightingale, the Scout, and Flame Sorceress. I think Flame Sorceress isn't insane on this, but I was trying to experiment and I ended up doing pretty well on this one. Your main strategy here is going to be to come in with characters like Outlaw Archer. Like you're trying to basically get shrapnel, these percent-based damages and the infect on as many characters as possible. Using Fire Grenade to do percent-based damage and get Scorch on as many characters as possible, and then running away. Like literally, just you're going to try to hit and then run. And so you're going to see in this fight, we're going to do as much damage as we can, but we're going to highly prioritize running up here. And we're going to end up just basically keep backing up, because you can't really be aggressive in this fight. The other fight we're going to show you, we are actually quite aggressive. But if you look here, trying to knock enemies off, these little ledges here means you can't. So you can't knock this guy off. You can't knock him off this bridge. The only spot you can knock people off is here, which you literally can't because it's a 1 tile wide. Or it's like this square right here and this square right here, I think you can knock someone off. But that's like it. So it's not a viable strategy for this map. So we got to kill them. And when we're doing that, you're going to see exactly what we're doing. So let's go ahead and go through it. March Command, super important to me. You're laying down ice. So enemies are going to be... The ice here is it's to slow this guy down. This guy has a ridiculous amount of movement, even though he's not as close. We're CCing this guy, so he can't chase us. And this guy is going to run up here, and this ice is going to slow him down next turn. So you can see here, we had her go up and silence him, and then she ran away. Not silence him, sleep him. And now you're going to see this is basically our strategy, right? We're going to run first. We're going to be safe. Even though I want to get more damage in, I'm not doing it. Foot sniping lowers his movement, right? More control. And then we've got Urgent Order to make Nightingale go early. And then we're putting down more ice to protect ourselves because I think she would have died here. And now we don't have that much damage in on them, but now, as you can see here, they're kind of grouped up, and we're going to start throwing. So we threw a grenade there. We threw a fireball, which I think is a little bit not great damage, but the main reason we did that is because at the end of her turn, she also applies Scorch, so she actually did like a bunch of damage to this guy. And then we threw our grenade and we're running, right? We did Urgent Order again, and now we throw our burning grenade, so this does damage. This slows them down. Not as much as the ice, so the ice wasn't really relevant, but this isn't a perfect fight, right? This is the one that I did. I decided that the fire was better because it does more damage. And so as enemies try to get to us, you can see they're going to take a bunch of damage, and it stops their movement, right? And now he has to walk around because he can't get up through here. And now this guy just kind of come stand there. All right, I skipped a couple turns ahead, but as you can see here, it was a very similar strat. We kept running up here. We threw our grenade and we ran away and we just hit and run. So I cut out a little bit of that just because it was like freaking 10 rounds, which is a really long time. But this one is half the length, and it's actually, you can see a totally different strategy here. So this is a knockback strategy. Every character on this team, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 of them have a knockback because that's going to be how we're going to win this stage. We're also using KA Guard because he has the ability to survive an attack, which I found incredibly useful in this fight. But this will show you the power of knockback and ice combined together because we utilize both of those very well. So you can see here, very first thing we're going to do with the PayPal guard is we're going to put ice here, right? Because this guy is 1, 2, he's like 1, 2, 3 tiles away. And this guy's also 1, 2, 3 tiles away. So normal knockbacks are only 2 tiles. They're not going to be able to get it. However, they're going to be able to see pretty quickly. When we put ice down here, suddenly now it extends the range of our knockback by an additional tile. So now that guy gets to get knocked out. We get to take this guy, our KA guard, knock that guy out, and we're going to move him in front of here because you always survive a hit. We're going to knock that guy off the edge with Divine Grace. He has a 2-tile knockback, and then we are going to come up here and knock you off as well. So one of the reasons we put this character here is actually to purposely die, which is because the mutation on this effect, if you kill something, you get to go again. If this guy gets the kill in the back, he's so fast, I just couldn't get him to target something that was like useful. Like he kept wiping out 2 people every single time. But we fed the kill to this guy. We could trick this guy into fighting our guard here, and the guard doesn't die in one shot. As you can see here, he gets the kill and then he moves forward. This guy just starts coming down, and then the assault, you are going to kill our guy here, but he gets back up stronger than ever. And now we've got the ice blast, boom, and we come back here with the Mithra, and boom, and we knock them all off, right? So this is a totally different strategy, but again, you can see the general rules are coming into play. These guys have 10,000 plus HP, 1,800 plus defense. This is not even a strong guy comparatively to the others. You just don't, in 4,000 attack, you can't fight them toe-to-toe in a fair fight. You have to do cheeky cheese-like strategies. You got to knock them into the nacho cheese and stuff like that. But yeah, those are the general strategies. I could show you the rest of this fight, but it's literally 3 rounds of luring this guy down before I kill him. It's not that important. But yeah, those are the general strategies, the general units, the type of tactics you want to employ. They're not specific guides for specific levels, but basically think of those things when you're working on tower, and I guarantee you will get further than you currently are. If you're stuck on towers like floor 5, and stuff like that, you will get further if you think outside the box a little bit and you start using some of these strategies. Anyway, that's going to be all for today, guys. Thank you very much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye! Platypus on the rise, watch the views go up. Content king, never down, always showing up. Hitting milestones, the fame never lets up. Click that link, dive in deep, never getting up. Gaming, vlogging, every trend, always first.